Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, Iran continues to blatantly violate the nuclear agreement and threaten the Jewish state. Last week, the hardline Islamic Republic launched 2 ballistic missiles in the Persian Gulf, deployed several of its fast attack speedboats to harass a U.S. naval vessel in the strategic Strait of Hormuz, and carried out the successful test firing of its sophisticated Russian-made S-300 air defense system. That system is capable of simultaneously launching 12 missiles at 6 targets as far away as 125 miles within just 3 to 5 seconds. The weapons transfer had been held up by sanctions since 2007, but the 2015 nuclear deal paved the way for Moscow to deliver the $800 million lethal system to the rogue state. Jerusalem is concerned that the S-300 will be used to shoot down Israeli aircraft. U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are maintaining close channels of communication regarding Iran's ongoing provocations. During a recent telephone conversation, the 2 leaders discussed ways to counter aggression by Iran and the dangers from Tehran emanating from the International Nuclear Accord signed under the direction of Barack Obama.
Leaders across America have joined President Trump in condemning the surge of Jewish hate crimes. During his recent summit in Israel, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said that his state has zero tolerance for anti-Semitism and has enacted extraordinary measures to combat the phenomenon. Cuomo visited the National Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem, where he laid a wreath to commemorate the 6 million Jewish victims of the genocidal hatred during World War II. He also lit the Eternal Fire during a ceremony at the Hall of Remembrance. The governor's trip came just hours after the 4th known case of a Jewish cemetery desecration within 2 weeks that occurred in Cuomo's own state. Meanwhile, the Anti-Defamation League is praising U.S. authorities for making their first arrest in connection with the nationwide wave of anti-Semitism. FBI Director James Comey has been meeting with Jewish leaders to discuss the investigation into at least 200 incidents targeting Jews and Jewish institutions in 30 states since the start of this year. The 31-year-old suspect, Juan Thompson, is believed to have made 8 bomb threats against Jewish facilities. He's also being questioned about the vandalism of 154 headstones at a Jewish graveyard in St. Louis.
Saudi Arabia and its Gulf Arab allies have carried out thousands of bombing raids against Houthi rebels ever since the Iranian-backed Shiite Islamist militia seized large swaths of territory in Yemen 2 years ago. Tens of thousands of Houthi supporters recently took to the streets of Sana'a in a protest against Riyadh. The demonstration also served as an opportunity to rage against Washington and Jerusalem. The Houthis' ideology is extremely anti-American and anti-Semitic. The crowd, including children, brandished signs bearing the group's slogan, which read, "Allah is great, death to the U.S., death to Israel," as well as "curse the Jews" and "victory for Islam."
U.S. President Trump's administration is now reviewing its participation in the United Nations Human Rights Council in a move aimed at pressuring the Geneva Forum to end its obsession with Israel. U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Aaron Barclay told the council that Washington remains deeply troubled by its consistently unfair and unbalanced focus on the sole democracy in the Middle East. Israel is the only nation in the world that the UNHRC has set as a permanent item for condemnation on its agenda. The top American diplomat blasted the body for ignoring egregious human rights violations raging across the world and added that such activity threatens the Council's credibility and makes itself into a mockery.
The Palestinian Authority is continuing its tradition of honoring terrorism and glorifying murderous acts of violence against Israelis. The PLO Supreme Council for Youth and Sports has just named a Palestinian youth camp after Dalal Mughrabi. She's the female assailant who led the infamous 1978 Coastal Road massacre, where 37 Israeli civilians, including 12 children, were slaughtered during the terrorist hijacking of a public bus. The district governor of Ramallah presided over the naming ceremony and offered praise for the initiative's so-called remembrance of the pure-hearted martyrs. Many other sports tournaments, summer camps, schools, and public institutions in the Palestinian territories have been named in tribute to other terrorists.
In last week's edition of Israel Now News, we reported the hopeful sign of progress against Palestinian incitement. Facebook had closed down the official page of the Palestinian Fatah political party for glorifying the murder of Israelis. Unfortunately, since that time, the social media giant backtracked on that decision and has reinstated the account. The page had been closed after a photo was posted of late PLO leader Yasser Arafat holding a rifle that belonged to an Israeli soldier who'd been abducted in the 1980s by Palestinian terrorists in Beirut. Now, a Facebook spokesperson says that the page was closed in error and has apologized for this mistake. The Palestinian Media Watch monitoring group is reporting that Facebook put the account back without removing any of the terror-promoting material regularly posted by Fatah, which is headed by Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas.
The European Union recently awarded a €7.7 million prize, worth about $8,200,000, to the International Nanopack project being led by Israel's Technion Institute of Technology. The program is aimed at designing solutions to extend the shelf life of food. It's all part of the EU's Horizon 2020 framework program for research and innovation. The Technion is working on a smart solution for nanotech-based packaging that's capable of inhibiting the growth of microbes. The process involves the slow release of minute amounts of potent EU-approved essential oils into the packaging to increase both antimicrobial and antifungal properties. This means not only less premature spoilage, but also fewer food-related illnesses. The project's sponsors also hope a breakthrough can help to reduce the staggering 1.3 billion tons of food that are wasted each year. You've heard the old saying, birds of a feather flock together. Well, that expression takes flight here in Israel, where starlings from Eastern Europe spend the winter. The flocks are welcome annual visitors who create breathtaking dancing clouds in the heavens. Southern residents of the Holy Land are treated to remarkable evening performances of synchronized aerial acrobatics and the collective shifting of patterns. The avian performers feed and rest during the daylight hours and gather at dusk to soar through the skies in swirling murmurations. Many families come out to watch the dazzling display of high-speed swooping and spiraling that dramatically contract and expand on the Israeli horizon.
Israel, the light unto the nations, today faces attack from more than just rockets and terrorism. Calls to boycott, sanction, and divest from Israel, known as BDS, are a form of economic warfare that you can help to prevent. The Israel Allies Foundation has launched a public service campaign called Defeat BDS, offering educational tools and other resources that you can use to stand with Israel and help make a difference. Just visit the easy-to-use website at www.defeatbds.org.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful winter day in our indoor studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Jan Willem van der Hoven. He is the director of the International Christian Zionist Center. Jan Willem, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Tell our viewers a little bit about what is the International Christian Zionist Center?
Well, the International Christian Zionist Center wants to bring the 10 from each nation that Zechariah prophesies. And I'm not the only organization. I started the International Christian Zionist Embassy that virtually has that same vision to see the fulfillment of Zechariah, where it says, when God brings the Jewish people back to their land, something will happen with Gentile believers in the God of Israel. They will be all like Ruth. They will take hold of the sleeve of a Jew, it says, and say, not we will pray for you while we go for our easy rapture, but we will go with you, we will stay with you. And if there's ever a time that Israel needs her lost brothers, that in a way come from the different nations of the world, actually from all the nations, as we see at the Feast of Tabernacles, the Christians that are coming with love for Israel come nearly from every single nation. We have Chinese coming with the flag of Israel on their own dresses. And I would want you to come and be part of that fulfillment of Zechariah.
Let me ask you then, why should Christians support Israel? What's the reason for it?
Even Jesus, which the Christians are supposed to believe in, said salvation is of the Jews. And there is no way that you can read the prophecy of the Bible without seeing the centrality of the Jewish people in the plan of God's salvation with this earth. This earth will not be renewed by the foolish talk in the United Nations or peace conferences in Geneva. This earth will only see a new day of paradise, of righteousness and peace, when the Messiah will be in Jerusalem.
Jan, let me then ask you, you quoted from Zechariah, you talked about the nations bringing the Jewish people back to the land. What role do you think Christians have in Aliyah?
One of the first things we did when I had founded the Christian Embassy with my friends was that we went to the Israeli ambassador in Finland and said, because we were there with our representatives of the different nations, says, what can we do for the Aliyah? And he says, why don't you begin to pay for the plane loads of Jews coming in from the Ukraine? And we then paid for 51 plane loads for Jews to come home. J. Rowlings went again and again, and others, Esther Dolving and many others have spoken to and helped the Jews money-wise to come here. So of course, yes.
So Jan Willem, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I am so thankful that God, in His mercy for America and the West, has caused President Donald Trump to be the president. As I said to one of the top leaders here, I believe, as a prophet said to me in Norway, who fasts every year 40 days, and this he said in July, before the election, he says Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States. And you will see him meet him. But I want you to know that Isaiah 45 says that God raised up a Cyrus that was the servant of God for Israel. And that's exactly what Donald Trump will be. He will not just only put the embassy in Jerusalem, he will give the Jews, and I feel it even now, the political backing like Cyrus, not to stand forever at the Wailing Wall or Western Wall, but to build the temple. The Jews will never dare to build the temple without a huge political backing of somebody, not a little prime minister from Europe, but a man like Cyrus who can say, you've come after all these years of suffering and persecution back to your land, not to stand forever at the Wailing Wall, but to build that temple, and I am with you like Cyrus to do so.
Thank you, Jan Willem, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, you will witness the fulfillment of biblical prophecy through the gathering of the exiles. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Me and my family always prayed to come to Israel because it's a home, it's our home. 10 months ago, I made Aliyah with my sister. We are living together in Haifa. I'm worrying about my family because the situation in Ukraine now really terrible.
The past decade and a half has witnessed a frightening upsurge of worldwide anti-Semitism, unparalleled since the 1930s. Across Europe, incitement, desecration of Jewish institutions, attacks on Jewish property, and acts of terror, including murder, are striking fear into Jewish communities. From London to Berlin, Brussels to Copenhagen, Jews are being harassed, assaulted, and murdered. The situation is particularly intolerable in France and in Ukraine. In France, violent crimes against Jews have become commonplace.
Avec la multiplication des actes antisémites en France, donc déjà j'ai peur pour moi, mais j'ai aussi peur pour ma famille, pour ma femme, pour mes enfants plus tard.
In eastern Ukraine, over 1 million people have been displaced. In the escalating chaos and lawlessness, Jews have once again become scapegoats, with many anti-Semitic incidents reported.
When I was in school, my classmates told me that, oh, you are Jewish, it's not normal in Ukraine, why you are Jewish? It was very hard for me to speak with them, to describe every time what I do in Ukraine and why I'm Jewish.
I will give to you and your descendants after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. But Israel has always been the homeland of the Jewish people. Throughout their 2,000-year exile, the Jews prayed daily to return to the land of Israel. In 1917, Great Britain issued the Balfour Declaration. In 1920, Keren HaYesod was established to raise funds for this purpose. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Keren HaYesod has helped bring 3.5 million olim to Israel from the four corners of the earth.
This is Bible prophecy come into fulfillment. It's not just my heart, but I can feel the heart of Abba Father. Abba Father in heaven is so pleased to see his children who are scattered all around the globe is coming back home.
From India to Africa to Europe, record-breaking numbers of Jews are eager to come home. Aliyah rose dramatically in the past year, hitting a 10-year high despite the security threats that face Israel. Keren HaYesod operates in 45 countries throughout the world. The Keren HaYesod law, passed by the Knesset in January 1956, grants the organization a unique fundraising status. In close coordination with the government and the Jewish Agency for Israel, and in partnership with the global Jewish community and Friends of Israel, Keren HaYesod promotes Aliyah and other national priorities. We need you, dear friends, to be our partners in this noble mission of helping the people of Israel return home before the window of opportunity slams shut and live safely in its secured homeland. Keren HaYesod, with your generous assistance, has redoubled its efforts to facilitate every Jew who wishes to fulfill the biblical prophecy. Friends of Israel, the Holy Land and its people needs you now. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth.
Come join Keren HaYesod in fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
The Iron Dome anti-ballistic missile system is unique in military history. It is the only anti-ballistic missile system that has proven effective in combat. And not only effective in combat, but 95% effective. And the Iron Dome is also a miracle of Israeli technology. It went from drawing board to active and successful deployment within a mere 4 years, a world record. Now that type of development and deployment would not have been possible without the generosity of the American people, of the White House, and particularly of the Congress. As Israel's ambassador to the United States, I would always say that behind Israel's Iron Dome stands our Marble Dome, the Marble Dome on Capitol Hill of Congress, which gave tens of millions of dollars to enable us to further develop the system, to produce the interceptors and the batteries needed to defend Israel from tens of thousands of rockets that are aimed at our neighborhoods, homes, and schools. But Israel faces a threat not only from rockets, but also from lawsuits. It's called lawfare. As our enemies are firing those rockets, they want us to reply and respond in a way that will kill numbers of civilians on their own side. So while the enemy can't get at our civilians, we cannot enable them to shoot at us indefinitely. We will shoot back. And the enemy will hide behind those civilians, and that will create what our enemies call disproportionality. No Israelis getting killed on our side, a lot of the enemy's civilians getting killed on their side. The enemy wants that. And then they want to use that disproportionality to sue us in international courts of justice, to deny us the right to defend ourselves, and ultimately to deny us the right to exist as an independent Jewish state. Therefore, we need not just a military Iron Dome, we need a legal and diplomatic Iron Dome. That kind of Iron Dome can be given to us by the United States of America through legislation by letting the world know that if any organization or any country tries to boycott, sanction, or sue Israel for war crimes in international courts, that country will be vulnerable to American retribution, which will be very punishing indeed.
Lift up your eyes and look around. All your children gather and come to you. The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Anti-Semitism threatens many of the Jews. We must rescue them before the window of opportunity slams shut. Bless Israel by supporting Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let us bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
In 1980, the Israeli parliament passed a law declaring a united Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the State of Israel. Threatened by the Arab League with an oil embargo, national embassies in Jerusalem closed their doors. That same year, Christians from around the world gathered in Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Sensing the isolation of the Israeli people, the participants and leaders of this gathering decided to establish the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is since more than 30 years right here in Jerusalem to connect the global church with the nation of Israel. For many Jewish people throughout the centuries, the only face of Christianity what they experienced was the ugly face of anti-Semitism, of Christians persecuting the Jewish people wherever they found them. As Christian Embassy, we are here in Israel to show a new face of the church, a new face of Jesus Christ to the Jewish people.
The mission of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is fourfold: to educate the global church about Israel through events, television programs, and print publications, to promote Christian celebration in Israel and around the world through the annual Feast of Tabernacles celebration, to mobilize the worldwide body of Christ in prayer for Israel, influencing global leaders and ICEJ representatives in over 80 nations, and to show compassion to the people of Israel through social projects that are changing lives in every sector of Israeli society. To learn more about the ICEJ and how you can partner with us, visit icej.org.
We are here at the backyard of the Christian Embassy, and what you see behind me is our staff packing special Passover boxes for needy families here in Israel.
The economic situation in Israel is in general fine, but there's hundreds of thousands of families that both men and women are working and haven't got enough money to buy everything they need. Pesach is one of the two holidays, important holidays in Israel. And that's the reason we see those families, because even help of 200 or 300 shekels mean a lot for them.
This year, we want to provide the Passover meal for as many Israeli families in need as possible. But we need your help. For a gift of $100, you can help one family with the basic provisions needed for the Passover Seder.
Also in Israel, life is very high. Most of the women doesn't work, only the men workers. And most of them are very old, and also they are not very well healthy. This help is very helpful for them, especially for the Passover. They need it.
באמת אין לי מילים להודות שקיבלתי את המצרכים היפים לחג. אני מודה לכם מאוד, בשמי ובשם ילדיי.
The fact that Christians like you show their love and support of the Jewish people by sending gifts at the Passover holiday truly touches hearts, and it makes a difference. So please visit our website today and give, and ensure another family will be able to celebrate the holiday with joy.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.